It's Tuesday, the 25th of October, 2016. I am Robin Yellow, and this is Techtasm, episode 34, Ninten-inch. And with me again, because nobody else is as fabulous, is James Woodall.
Hello, hello, hello. I have to say, I'm amazed that we're actually recording this show at the time we say we record this show.
On a Tuesday at 9 o'clock.
It is Tuesday, and it's 9 o'clock. What's going on there?
Well, this week, James, we're going to be taking a look at Nintendo's Switch gaming tablet. The internet goes dark. And why don't you get some Joymode in your life? And we'll be judging these stories and some others to tell you if they are a Techtasm, which is a blend of tech for technology, and tasm for phantasm, something that exists only in somebody's mind. So without further drivel, let's get on with the show. James, Nintendo have released the Switch, and it's exactly what all the rumours said it would be. In short, it's a tablet-based game platform with detachable controllers that can dock at home and display games on your TV. Now, they had a 3-minute video on YouTube which launched the product, which showed the Switch working in various different ways. They were playing The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild at home on the TV, and then you kind of snap the tablet off the charger and jump into onto your moped and then go and see your mates, and you snatch the two detachable controllers go on the side of the tablet, which you can then play Splatoon on your own, and then you can take the two controllers off and hand one to your mate and one to you and play sort of two-player mode at the same time. Very impressive. Did you see the video, James?
I did. I'm going to get one, but I have to say my reasons for getting one are slightly different. They have pre-announced a new Mario game, and that's where it's at.
Ah, which one was that?
I've no idea. They haven't given it a title yet, but there was somebody playing a Mario game, and that's me sold. That's easy.
Well, that's all you need, really, isn't it? But then I suppose, Nintendo, they've got these characters, obviously Mario and Zelda. They've got these big characters, these big franchises that they keep rehashing over and over again. Is it good enough?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there you have it.
Why do you have to ask? No, okay, right. That aside, I mean, Nintendo do make some really great first-party titles. I think that was the difference between them and Sega, because Sonic was just a bit of a Me Too. So I think that the only thing that's really kept Nintendo alive is the fact that they've got some really fantastic first-party titles. The Switch, I don't think it'll be as groundbreaking as the Wii was. However, it's definitely a really fantastic differentiator between the powerhouses today, Xbox and Sony. And they've kind of carved a little niche for themselves, because most people are either Xbox or PlayStation, or
PC, of course.
Yeah, or PC. But if you think kind of 10, 15 years ago, it was Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. But what Nintendo have done is, and if they get this right, because they did this with the Wii, there's space for the Switch to be alongside these other devices, because they're not going to, and horsepower, they're not even competing in that race. They're just focusing on playability and gaming.
Well, NVIDIA have announced that the Switch is powered by a Tegra processor, so it's going to have actually pound for pound or milliamp hour per core is going to have a lot of power on that little tablet. So while it's small, it's going to be pretty good. Yeah,
but obviously a Tegra is a mobile optimized processor, whereas a PS4 and an Xbox don't need to worry about that because they're always plugged into a power supply.
Yeah.
So
but it is a modern new processor. I don't know which Tegra it is, but it's going to be the latest model, of course. And the PS4 graphics chip's been knocking around for a few years now, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. But the point is, though, Nintendo are not competing in that race, but they've got enough of a differentiator for them to not need to. If you think back to when the N64 came out, they were competing in that race, against the PlayStation. And actually, I think that was just it, really, wasn't it? It was the PlayStation and because Xbox wasn't out then.
The Sega Saturn.
Oh, the Saturn. Oh, and the Dreamcast. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, Dreamcast. I think it was called the Saturn in the US, Dreamcast in the
No. They were different things.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Well, the Dreamcast. Oh, really? So Dreamcast was a global brand, was it?
Yeah, it was, and it was their final. The Saturn, they rushed the Dreamcast because the Saturn didn't do very well. It was terrible. But anyway,
that serves them right.
I think Nintendo can turn their fortunes around with this because it's got enough interest about it, and the price point will be very attractive because there's not too much going on here. I think it's really interesting if they can focus on the cooperative play. I think they'll do really, really well.
But I mean, you know, there was in the video he's put the controller, the hand controller, kind of splits into two and attaches to the side of the tablet when it's in sort of tablet mode. Yeah. And then it showed them propping the tablet up on a little kickstand and taking the two halves of the controller off each side, and then one person each, you know, playing two-player simultaneously. So they each had, you know, this tiny little controller with a thumbstick and some buttons in their hand. And I thought, I wonder if that breaks in two as well. So kids can play, and then babies, and then before you know it, the thing just disappears into tiny pieces, a bit like Project Ara.
Yeah, I think it's innovative. I want to see it. I mean, I hope they get that kind of clicking mechanism right, because that kind of stuff does wear out quite quickly. But hey, maybe that's a bit too much for this episode.
Well, the Switch is due in March 2017. That's all we know. You think it's going to be a hit, clearly, don't you, James?
Well, it'll be a hit in kind of my household. So,
but let me just, before we finish this one, I've got two words to say to you. Well, actually, one word and one letter. Wii U.
Yeah, I had a Wii U, but I only used it for Mario, and it clearly wasn't finished when they really rushed it out. So,
and it had this sort of confusing tablet mode, which didn't have any power in the tablet, and it just kind of transmitted from the main game.
Yeah, it had about a 5 or 6 meter range. Really, it wasn't particularly useful. I mean, basically what I used it for was playing on Mario on my wife watch TV. And
on the tablet-y bit?
Yeah, on the tablet-y bit. I don't think I ever used it on the full screen. But,
oh, really?
But I only ever had Mario for it, and nothing else really interested me.
You know, it's funny that they're doing this. Recently they did put that game out on Android, didn't they? They didn't use...
There's a Mario game coming out on iOS in December called Super Mario Run.
I would have thought that's where their future lies, in Android gaming, but I suppose nobody's really made any money doing it, have it? It held such promise, Android and iOS gaming, but nobody really ever delivered a sort of killer title.
No, but there's only probably about 5 or 6 companies that are really kind of getting paid quite well for it, and it's all the people you'd expect, you know, EA, Ubisoft, and so forth.
Well, I don't. You think this is not a Techtasm? I don't think it's Techtasm-y enough. So let's call that 2 times. This is going to succeed.
Okay, we've got a double story, a BBC story, and Nameless Journo Droid has written both. So that is
love his work.
Or hers. We're not too sure.
Its work.
Its work. Love its work. And this is all about the cyber attack that happened over the weekend. I don't know if this affected you or not, but
it did. Yeah.
But basically, there's a firm which handles DNS requests, and you know, for our listener, DNS is effectively the address book of the internet. And this service Dyn was hit by a massive, and some people are saying it's the biggest ever distributed denial of service attack. And basically, a DDoS attack is where millions and millions of devices are hitting a service all at the same time, and the idea being you flood the service and it goes down under effectively its own steam. It can't cope with the volume of requests that are coming through. So, and unfortunately, Dyn provides the DNS service for many big names, including New York Times, PayPal, Pinterest, Tumblr, SoundCloud, Spotify, GitHub, Etsy, Twitter, Reddit, and the list goes on and on and on. And, this is just, it's a bit kind of, it's really annoying. Why do people do this? It really
sounds like a single point of failure to me.
Yes. Well, it only affected supposedly the East Coast servers, But of course, that was a knock-on effect.
Was that East Coast servers what of one of the cloud providers?
The East Coast servers of Dyn, which
okay, right. Which fine.
Okay, so if you were on the East Coast doing a DNS query, then yeah. But the interesting thing is, this one attack on a third party took down several high-profile websites, and not just websites but services. Like for example, GitHub going down would have affected many developers.
Yes.
Twitter
would have affected many journalists.
Yes,
because that's where they get all their news from, guys. I can officially tell you that all journalists get everything off Twitter.
Yep. That's definitely fact. But the thing with
I get all my insights off Reddit. So
well, there you go. So you just screwed either way, right? But the interesting thing about this is there was actually a second attack as well. So the first one lasted. It doesn't really say how long. And then later on in the day on Friday, a second attack hit with the same tactics as the first. And I guess the problem that Dyn had, and this is what I read on a different article, was that it was because of the nature of the attacks, it was very hard to distinguish them from normal DNS queries.
Yes.
Because what sometimes happens in DDoS attacks is they just attack layer 2, layer 3 kind of technologies, which are, I guess, internet sub-layers. And there are a lot of DDoS prevention mechanisms that work today that can filter those out. So they can kind of detect the patterns and move them away. But because these were actually real DNS queries, the Dyn service didn't actually know that they were wrong. But what ended up happening, I mean, as this story progressed over the next couple of days, and this was further into the weekend, some companies were saying this was actually the work of those IoT devices, like your home cameras and Internet of Things devices you got lying around your home. And a few people were specifically blaming Chinese-made devices because they had default passwords that nobody had changed.
Well, that's a common threat vector because you think about it, right? Say a webcam or a router or something you buy from Dixon's or Curry's that you just plug into the wall and turn on and it does one thing, even some of these power switches, Wemo and Philips Hue, these are computers with IP addresses and, crucially, firmware that doesn't change much. That means that, and invariably based on some variant of Linux, which could have been very old and could have a very old vulnerability in it, once the bad actor gets access to it, these things are open to potential exploitation. Now, they're never going to have a massive amount of power, but once they get inside your house, they can do a lot of damage. And also, Legion's Nest thermostats. I'm not saying there are any vulnerabilities with Nest thermostats. I'm just saying that, there could be millions of them out there that could be used, as you said, James, for these denial of service attacks by all acting at a certain time and in a certain way. But my question, James, is why do it? Why did they want to take the internet down on Friday?
I don't know.
What purpose? What were they trying to hide from plain sight? Was there something going on somewhere else which meant that they had to do that? Were they trying to rob a bank? I don't know.
No, I don't think we'll ever know the answer to that question. But
or was it just a bit of fun?
Well, who knows? I mean, there's a further twist, though, to this story, which is the Chinese government has defended its own product firms, saying that it is threatening legal action against organizations and individuals making false claims about the security of Chinese-made devices. But what I would say is, do you remember, cast your mind back 10 years ago or so, when you bought a home router, it came with a default password and you were encouraged to change it? Now what happens when you buy home routers is they've all got randomly assigned passwords, and you get a little card in the box that tells you what your password is and whatever else, and all the kind of external facing remote access tools are turned off by default. I think, and this is going to be impossible to manage, but I'll throw it out there anyway, maybe there should be some kind of, as part of, say, FCC checks or the EC checks, why can't they have security certifications that go with it? Because if a camera has got a default password, it's clearly going to be insecure, because what the Chinese government is doing is blaming customers for not changing their passwords. But hang on a minute. Most people who buy these products are not technically focused. They don't know to do that.
So I think the problem is with firmware updates. Now,
No, I think the problem is with the manufacturers. They should put random passwords in when they...
Well, that would help.
Well, yeah, that would stop it altogether.
Well, yes and no. Just because you've got a password doesn't mean that you're safe. It depends what ports are open, whether you can SSH in or FTP in. There are all sorts of things that...
Sure, but if it's all behind a password, an FTP, SSH, or whatever, if it's all behind a password, then okay, I'll give you an example.
Well, the most secure, James, of course, the most secure devices are devices which do not offer username and password. They are certificate-based. So username and password is not offered as an option to authenticate to the device. You need a certificate to do it. Or second factor. But you see, the problem is, the reason why we have passwords, everybody, of course, is because it's a convenient way for us to access our devices. There's always that battle between security and ease of use. And how often, if you buy, I'm looking in front of me, I've got an 8-port Ethernet hub. How often do I need to access that device, get onto the firmware? Never. I plug it in, I use it. When it stops working, I throw it away.
No, sure, but that's different, though, to, say, a camera that needs to stream out. So just to give you an example, I've got a Nest... in fact, we've got 2 Nest smoke alarms in the house. And the way you set those up is you've got a smartphone app that takes a picture of a QR code on the back of the device, and then it kind of figures itself out. And that QR code is basically a series of passwords and randomly generated strings that differ from device to device to device. So what they're doing is they are using unique forms of identification to reduce the threat vector by using generic passwords, for example, but they're adding the convenience of the mobile app, which makes it easy for the user. So the only way you can set it up is by using the app, and hey, they've found a way of exchanging the keys or whatever it is without anyone needing to type anything in. Nest have clearly thought about that.
Yeah, but Nest devices are premium devices that are sold to the kind of people that are comfortable using smartphones.
And maybe the FCC and EC, when they're doing these certifications, need to start looking at this kind of stuff to pass the device, because you wouldn't accept it from your home router now, would you?
No.
And look, the world has changed, and maybe that's what we need to do. You can't put the burden on the users because they're idiots.
Well, we are all idiots in one way or another. And I would say, when it comes to calling a Techtasm on this, I don't know why the internet went down. And I am aware that there are potential security flaws in Internet of Things devices, but I don't think there's anything to call, James.
No, unfortunately, I think this is just a reality of the modern world we live in.
And it's a sad indictment. Let me bring some joy, though, to your life, James, and tell you about Clout's Joe Fernandez, his latest project, Joymode. Now, this was reported in TechCrunch on the 21st of October. Anthony Ha, thank you, Anthony. Now, Joymode is a startup for people who want to do fun things, as it says here, like host a backyard movie night or go on a camping trip, but don't want to buy all the requisite equipment, especially if they're only going to do it once. So membership costs $99 a year, which gets you into the club, and then you pay rental on the equipment. Presumably the $99 is a bit like Amazon Prime. It gives you the shipping, and then you actually pay on the rental of whatever it is. Now, what would you use this for?
I don't know. I mean, I do. I can
Here's
certainly...
one. It's called Get Your Grill On. You could do that.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times that... Well, it's very few, but the wife and I have gone camping and we've had to buy loads of stuff. And this is one of the things that they say in this article. So, yeah, I think that's quite interesting, actually.
Here's a good one. Cleaning supplies or an overnight kit of sheets and towels when someone's visiting. That's fun.
Oh, that's really interesting.
But for more practical, perhaps less sort of let's go camping.
Yeah, sure.
Now, what it says here is that customers can use the app to view video instructions on how to use each item. So they're getting actual support in the equipment. Presumably they've got smart people to pick, whatever camping pack is required. So there's some thought gone into it. But it is a sharing economy play, isn't it, James? A bit like Airbnb and to a lesser extent Uber.
It is. Although I found what's really interesting is the service is only available in Los Angeles, but they use New York as the example for almost everything.
Well, I think the founders came from New York, so that's perhaps where they had the first idea. Actually, it's not sharing economy, is it? Because the company themselves own the camping equipment and everything, or whatever it is, and actually, effectively, it's a rental company.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the website up here. There's a propane grill. It doesn't say how much it is, though. It doesn't say.
There's a wonderful picture here of backyard movie night, and there's sort of some fold-out wooden seats, which don't look that comfortable, actually. A little table with an outdoor lantern. There's a string of light bulbs, clearly a sort of temporary projection screen, presumably a projector tucked away somewhere as well. I don't know whether the flowers and drinks and peanuts are part of the experience as well.
Well, actually, no, it is. I'm looking here on the backyard movie night package, and you get a screen, a projector, speakers, a retro popcorn machine. That's clearly what you want.
You need it.
Low chairs, blankets, more blankets, tables, an air couch. Now that's clearly happening. A fire pit, a folding table, a cotton candy machine, wow, a frozen margarita maker, a professional photographer. What do you need that for? And a Joymode Boost. What's a Joymode Boost?
It's some kind of chocolate bar.
Oh, a Joymode agent will reach out and make your reservation to coordinate delivery and pickup in more detail. I don't know. It sounds like a lot of effort.
Well, they did get $3 million in funding. Led by Homebrew.
Yeah, but to be fair, people back winners, though, don't they? I mean, if this guy had sold a company before, he could have had any kind of brain fart and got money for it.
Clout was his company. That was a kind of aggregator of your social value, which would monitor your Twitter feed and who's following you and how fabulous you were. The most ghastly thing possible, but it got a lot of traction, didn't it? A lot of people. There was a period of about 6 months, a few years ago, when everybody had it on their phone and looked up their clouts. Your clout score has gone up. Who cares? Yeah. Get a life.
Yeah, well, I mean, wow. I mean, Lithium Technologies bought it for $200 million. So I'm guessing the founder did pretty well out of that.
Call it, James.
This is a massive Techtasm.
It's massive. It's
mega.
A 9 out of 10 straining Techtasm.
It is. It's just pulsating Techtasm.
We will never see this in the UK. We're far too smart and far too reserved, to be honest.
Definitely. Well, can we move on quickly?
Please.
To Reuters. Jessica Toonkel has been writing about, and you've probably heard this in the news, how AT&T, they call it a merger, but they're effectively going to buy Time Warner for $85 billion. With a B.
Ridiculous.
I mean, it's half cash, half stock, but interestingly enough, okay, AT&T only have $7 billion in cash on hand.
Oh, interesting.
So,
well, the markets must like it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've already had $120 billion in debt. So, yeah,
everything's funded by debt, James.
Yeah, this is very true, very true. But basically, what's happening is 5G is coming. Okay, as we all know. I mean, I know 4G is the big thing at the moment, but 5G is just around the corner. And effectively, what AT&T is doing is looking up to shore up their customer base, because a lot of people today are unhooking. They don't have cable TV subscriptions anymore. And although Time Warner has a great cable service, that to one side, what it does have is great content. Because, of course, it's got HBO, it's got CNN, it's got TBS, it's got TNT, plus it's got the entire film franchise of Warner Brothers, including, Harry Potter and, you know, all
Harry
the other-
Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter and Harry Potter.
And Harry Potter 2,
Yeah.
Return of the Potter.
That's it. But of course, being election season, Donald Trump has come out and said it's too much concentration of power in the hands of too few. Which I have to say, generally, I would not like to listen to Donald Trump at all. But I think he's got an interesting point here, because AT&T last year bought DirecTV, which is a satellite TV provider in the US, for $48.5 billion. So what this is going to do is, if it goes through, and of course it's with the regulators at the moment, it's going to create a company that has your mobile phone, your TV, and loads of content as well, all under the same brand. And
Well, of course, Time Warner are quite, they're not new to this. In 2000, they merged with AOL, which is now considered by most academics and universities to be one of the most ill-advised corporate mergers on record. So they've got a history of this. And again, you're buying into the back catalogue. So AT&T are bringing modernity and future-looking telecoms to an old catalogue and a movie studio, which is increasingly being is becoming a sort of ping pong ball bouncing around the table of investment by tech companies. Everybody wants the content, they want the talent. I'm not sure that AT&T are as progressive as other companies. I'm not sure Time Warner are as progressive as other companies. Therefore, it could be ill-advised again. As for 5G, that sounds like a red herring to me. 5G as a technology merges 4G with Wi-Fi and ultra-wideband into one sort of seamless thing. It doesn't provide any magic new silver bullet for providing telly to a neighborhood, from a balloon or from a mast. So I'm not 100% convinced that 5G has got anything to do with this.
Sure.
Looks like a Techtasm to me.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, it's such a big deal. It's going to be ages before anything actually happens to this, because it's going to go through the regulators. And the US is a little bit sidetracked, should we say, with the upcoming election, although that is only a few days away now, thankfully. So, Techtasm. Hey, come on. It's too big.
It's too big. And I'll tell you what else is too big. The Xiaomi 6.4-inch phone with edgeless display. So Xiaomi today, that's on earlier today, very early in the morning, announced the Mi Mix, the world's first edgeless display phone, alongside the company's new Mi Note 2, designed by French designer Philippe Starck. The Mi Mix is a 6.4-inch device that features a 2048 by 1080 pixel 17 by 9 aspect ratio borderless display that takes up 91.3% of the front of the handset. Now, the all-ceramic phone uses piezoelectric ceramic drivers for the earpiece and uses its metal frame to generate sound. Interesting. Proximity sensor's been replaced by ultrasound. Who cares? Both innovations are hidden under the display. It's powered by a Snapdragon 821, which is the best processor available right now, with 4 gigs of RAM. Big, 128
4
gig.
gig of RAM, that's
4 gig.
This is...
Go on.
Oh, wow, and they've even got a 6 gig model. That is incredible.
6 gig. I don't know. Don't you have to have a 64-bit operating system to take advantage of 6 gigs of RAM?
Yeah, you do. Well, you do to have 4 gig of RAM.
No, I thought you could do 4 on 32-bit, couldn't you?
No, but what happens is the graphics card takes up some of it as well, so you end up having 3.5 or something.
Well, the rear camera is 16 megapixels. We're not interested in megapixels anymore, are we? Can do 4K video. Yep. Front camera is 5 megapixels. It's got a 4,400 milliamp hour battery. That is gigantic, with Qualcomm Quick Charge 3 support. Are you going to buy one, James?
No, of course not. But surely... hang on, Android has been 64-bit for ages, surely.
Don't call me Shirley, and it probably has, yes.
No, I just say that because iOS has been 64-bit for about 3 or 4 years.
In that case, Android's been it for about 4 or 5 years. Okay, fair enough. So I can use it. I'll tell you the problem it's going to have. I know various people that have got the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, And the problem with that display is that your finger keeps accidentally working the thing because the display comes up to the edge.
No, but this is different. The Samsung Edge, though, this display actually curves round. This doesn't. This is all on the front surface, so it's slightly different. But okay, there's a bit of an ironic, and this is such a geeky thing to say. Philip Stark designed Steve Jobs' yacht before he passed away, and so I just find there's a slight, I don't know, irony or whatever, that he was affiliated with Apple, and now he's designing Xiaomi.
Well, Xiaomi
devices.
is the Chinese Apple, isn't it? I forget the guy's name. The head of Xiaomi even looks like Steve Jobs, i.e. he wears the roll neck, turtleneck jumper and says one more thing at the end of his presentations and pulls something out of his jeans pocket. This is a big phone, 6.4-inch phone. Even bezel-less is pretty big. It's going to be a curiosity. As again, the problem with the Edge is that there are some functions which require you on Android to swipe in from the Edge, and getting your thumb on the Edge. You've got a case on that thing. That's going to be a bit fiddly. Some people will buy it. I know they love big screens in China, don't they? But
yeah, they do. They really do.
It's not for me.
On the website, it's really quite.
Do you think the iPhone 8 will go bezel-less?
I don't know. And the rumors are all over the place at the moment for the iPhone 8. Who knows?
Who knows? Indeed. I think this will catch on, have a significant niche.
Well, Xiaomi are doing incredible in China. So, and they've now started, based on our conversation about Google several episodes ago, they've now been moving into here. So
yeah, well, it's interesting. Good. Well done, Xiaomi, for listening to us.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Have we got anything else, James?
Yeah, just really, really quickly. BBC, actually, Zoe Kleinman. So BBC not nameless journal.
Well done, Zoe.
Yeah, well done, Zoe, for being good enough at your job to get your name on the story. Smartwatch sales, sharp decline. They've declined 51.6% year on year, according to a new report by IDC. Interestingly enough, the Apple Watch is the market leader, but they only shipped 1 million units in the third quarter. I thought that, I'm a firm believer in wearable tech, as you know. I thought that the smartwatch would be an interesting taster into it, but it seems it's just not biting.
Well, I think it has bitten. That's the problem. People who were interested in smartwatches bought one. They bought an Apple Watch, or they bought an Android Wear Watch, or even the Pebble, or any of the other various wearable devices, Nike or Microsoft or whatever it was. And I think they bought them and they haven't broken because, watch operating systems have got to be quite reliable. They don't really do much, and therefore the upgrade cycle isn't that important. So I think that, I think this market will bump along and has found its natural level.
It's a shame. I have to agree with you, though. I've got an Apple Watch 1. I'm aware of the 2, but I'm perfectly happy with my 1. I don't feel the need to want to get a 2, because I don't see what it could do any different. It tells the time, and it's got my notifications on it. And that's what I use it for, notifications.
Well, that's right. And of course, when it comes to functionality, there's only so much you can do on a tiny screen, and they pretty much hit it out of the park functionality-wise when these first slew of devices launched. The ability to do notifications, simple replies, fitness tracking with a heart rate monitor. There were a range of devices that could do that from the get-go, and things haven't really changed. It's not like a phone where they can do all sorts of other things like NFC sensors, accelerometers, barometers, edgeless screens, that sort of thing. I suppose the challenge for watches is that kind of evolution to a thinner, lighter device that lasts longer on battery, and that will require some changes to physics and chemistry to occur before it makes a leap forward. So I suspect a new technology, be it battery or screen technology, will emerge, which will allow smartwatches to suddenly get smaller and better, and that will perhaps stimulate more demand. But at the moment, I think I kind of predicted this is where it would be. I got the first smartwatch, Android Wear one, when it came out, used it for 2 weeks, and I knew it wasn't going to change my life.
Was that the Moto?
It was the LG G Watch, actually, or Gwatch, as I called it. And it was great.
That didn't catch on.
It didn't. It's not a very attractive device, but it's caught on, with a certain, especially fitness trackers, like heart rate monitors.
I think the niche devices are really good, and like the Fitbits and whatever, they clearly are doing very well. I think just the all singing, all dancing smartwatch, I think they just haven't found their...
So a failure by Apple's standards, a success by everybody else's. That's all we got time for, James, this week. Listeners, you can find us at facebook.com/Techtasm, subscribe in the usual places, or contact us at feedback@techtasm.com. We record on every Tuesday at 2100 BST GMT, like this week, so watch out for next week, see if we can do 2 on the bounce. In the meantime, this is me, Sir Robin Yellow.
And me, James Woodall.
Asking the question on your behalf, is it real, or is it just a Techtasm?